The ambient hum of the grand ballroom at the Street Regis was punctuated by the rhythmic clinking of crystal champagne flutes. Tonight was the official launch gala for Nexus AI, my older brother David's much-hyped tech startup. I stood near the ice sculpture, nursing a single glass of sparkling water. I wore my standard uniform, a tailored but unbranded charcoal blazer, dark jeans, and plain leather loafers. Total outfit cost, under $200. Across the room, David was holding court. He wore a sharp Armani suit, a Rolex Submariner flashing on his wrist every time he gestured. Our parents stood flanking him, beaming with an aggressive kind of pride. They had spent the last 2 hours introducing David to every minor celebrity and mid-level executive in attendance, loudly proclaiming him the absolute genius of the family. When my mother finally spotted me, her smile evaporated instantly. She marched over, the heels of her Prada pumps clicking sharply against the marble floor. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, keeping her voice low but laced with pure venom. "I told you this was a black tie event for industry elites. You look like you just finished a 12-hour shift at a local coffee shop." "David sent me an invitation," I replied calmly, taking a slow sip of my water. "I came to observe." "Observe from the back," then, she snapped, adjusting her diamond necklace. "David is expecting the representative from his primary venture capital firm tonight. Apex Capital Group. They just injected $4.2 million into his seed round. We cannot have you embarrassing him with your pathetic freelance lifestyle." Before I could calmly explain that my freelance lifestyle actually involved managing a private investment portfolio of $95 million, David strode over. His face was flushed with expensive scotch and unearned arrogance. "Mom, why is she here?" David asked, not looking at me, but talking about me as if I were a permanent stain on the expensive carpet. "I was just telling her to stay completely out of sight," my mother said defensively. David finally turned his gaze to me. He looked at my plain blazer, then at the VIP guest badge clipped to my lapel. He didn't say a single word. He just reached into his suit pocket, pulled out a small pair of silver cigar clippers, and deliberately snipped the VIP badge right off my jacket. The plastic card fell to the floor with a hollow clatter. "You don't belong here," David stated, his voice dripping with intense condescension. "This room is for winners. People who create real value. Not people who struggle to pay rent on a tiny studio apartment. Security is going to escort you out through the service elevator right now." I looked down at the severed badge, then back up at his smug face. My heart rate didn't spike. My breathing remained perfectly steady. "Are you absolutely certain this is how you want to handle this, David?" I asked. "I'm certain I don't want a failure ruining my $4 million night," he sneered, gesturing to the guards. "Leave. Now." I nodded once. "Understood." I turned and walked toward the exit, my phone buzzing silently in my pocket with an automated notification. It was a high-priority email from my wealth manager at Apex Capital Group. Subject: Nexus AI Series A funding disbursement. Status: pending final executive approval. I did not resist the 2 security guards who flanked me toward the service elevators. I walked in complete silence, the severed plastic of my VIP badge. As I stepped out into the crisp night air, I bypassed the line of waiting taxis. I walked 2 blocks east to a private, secure parking structure. Marcus, my personal driver, stood sharply at attention beside a matte black Audi A8L Security Edition. It looked like a standard corporate vehicle, but the ballistic glass and reinforced chassis cost upwards of $700,000. "Back to the penthouse, ma'am?" Marcus asked, opening the heavy rear door. "Not yet, Marcus," I replied, sliding into the leather seat. "Just keep the engine running and hand me the encrypted tablet." The cabin was perfectly soundproofed. I logged into the Apex Capital Group executive portal using dual-factor biometric authentication. As the founder and 80% majority stakeholder of the firm, my dashboard displayed a live feed of our entire global portfolio. Today's total assets under management hovered precisely at $4.2 billion. I navigated to the active domestic tech incubator file, Nexus AI. On the tablet's secondary screen, I pulled up the official live stream of the Nexus AI launch gala. David was striding onto the main stage. The camera panned to our parents in the front row, clapping furiously, my mother dabbing her eyes with a lace handkerchief. Tonight, David's voice boomed through the Audi's premium sound system, is about uncompromised vision. Nexus AI isn't just a company, it's a paradigm shift in machine learning. He paused, flashing a perfectly rehearsed, arrogant smile. This vision is why Apex Capital Group, the most ruthless venture capital firm in the city, backed me. They recognized a unicorn. Tomorrow morning, at exactly 9 a.m., they are wiring the final $3.8 million of our Series A funding. We are going global. The ballroom erupted in applause. My phone buzzed on the console. It was a text message from David, sent just minutes before he took the stage. Keep walking, loser. Don't ever show your face at my corporate events again. You are a toxic anchor to my brand. Lose my number until you get a real career. I stared at the text. No anger spiked in my chest. Emotion is a liability in business. I only deal in leverage and consequences. He claimed I was a toxic anchor to his brand. It was time to show him who actually owned the ship. I turned my attention back to the Apex executive portal. I opened the Nexus AI funding contract. Section 4, Clause 12. Investor right of immediate withdrawal due to key personnel misconduct or brand dilution. I didn't blink. I moved my cursor past the glowing green Authorize Funds button. Instead, I selected the Terminate and Recall protocol. I typed a direct, unassailable command to my senior legal team. Cancel all pending disbursements for Nexus AI. Execute immediate recall of the initial seed capital. Initiate full financial audit prior to liquidation. I tapped the screen once. The dashboard flashed red. Status: funding revoked. Marcus, I said calmly, adjusting the cuffs of my $200 blazer. Drive me to the main entrance of the Street Regis. I need to have a word with the CEO. The heavy glass doors of the Street Regis swung open. I walked past the concierge, my unbranded loafers silent against the plush carpets. As I approached the grand ballroom, the two security guards who had escorted me out stepped forward. Ma'am, we already told you, the taller guard began, reaching for my shoulder. Do not touch her, a sharp, authoritative voice echoed through the corridor. Richard Sterling, the senior managing director of Apex Capital Group, strode purposefully from the VIP coat check. He was flanked by two corporate attorneys. Richard wore a bespoke Tom Ford suit that cost more than my brother's entire marketing budget. Mr. Sterling, the head of security, stammered, dropping his hand. We were instructed by the host, David, to remove this individual. She is trespassing. Richard ignored the guard. He walked straight up to me and bowed his head slightly. Apologies for the delay, Chairwoman. The legal team has fully processed your directive. The asset freeze on Nexus AI is now active across all global banking channels. Thank you, Richard, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Let us deliver the news to the CEO. We entered the ballroom just as David was stepping off the stage, surrounded by our parents and a circle of investors. My mother spotted me first. Her face contorted with outrage. Security, she shrieked, pointing a manicured finger at me. I thought we threw that trash out. David, your sister is trying to ruin your night. David pushed through the crowd, his face purple with rage. Are you insane? I told you to leave. He then noticed the man standing to my right. His anger instantly dissolved into a fawning, desperate smile. Mr. Sterling, sir, it is an absolute honor. Please, ignore this woman. She is just a mentally unstable relative. David extended his hand enthusiastically. Richard Sterling did not take it. He stood perfectly still, his expression carved from granite. I strongly suggest you lower your voice, David, Richard said coldly, adjusting his gold cufflinks. You are speaking to the founder, primary shareholder, and sole chief executive of Apex Capital Group. The silence that fell over the group was immediate and suffocating. My mother's jaw went slack. Her crystal champagne glass tilted, spilling expensive liquid onto her Prada shoes. David stared at Richard, then slowly turned his gaze to me, his eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and paralyzing terror. That is a joke, David stammered, a nervous sweat breaking out on his forehead. She is a freelance cleaner. She lives in a studio apartment. I manage a firm with an active portfolio of $4.2 billion, I corrected him, maintaining absolute eye contact. And as of exactly 4 minutes ago, My firm initiated a complete asset recall. Nexus AI is effectively bankrupt. David's knees visibly buckled. He grabbed the edge of a cocktail table to steady himself, knocking over a crystal vase. You can't do that, David stammered, his voice cracking. The seed money is already spent on the commercial lease, the server infrastructure. Without the final 3.8 million, the company dies tonight. I pulled the encrypted tablet from under my arm and tapped the screen, turning it toward him so the entire group of investors could see. The executive dashboard glowed with absolute, undeniable proof. Nexus AI account balance, pending seizure. Underneath, a flashing red banner read, funding recalled, legal action pending. I can. And I just did, I stated, my tone devoid of any sympathy. You violated Section 4, Clause 12 of your funding agreement, key personnel misconduct and brand dilution, by publicly cutting off my VIP badge, physically removing me, and texting me that I was a toxic anchor to your brand. You executed the termination clause yourself. My father finally pushed past my mother, his face completely pale, his hands visibly trembling. Sweetheart, wait. This is a massive misunderstanding. We didn't know you were successful. You kept it a secret. David is your flesh and blood. You cannot bankrupt your own brother over a silly family spat. This is not a spat, I corrected him, not raising my voice a single decibel. This is a strictly regulated business transaction. And I do not finance liabilities or volatile management. My mother lunged forward, grabbing my arm. Her heavy diamond rings dug into the fabric of my cheap blazer. Please. We co-signed his commercial loans. We put our entire retirement fund into his marketing budget. You have billions, just give him the 4 million. We are your family, we love you. I looked down at her hand, then up into her desperate, tear-filled eyes. I gently but firmly detached her manicured fingers from my sleeve. You made it perfectly clear tonight who your family is, I said, smoothing the lapel where my severed badge used to be. You value human beings based entirely on the price tags they wear. My outfit cost under $200, so you treated me like disposable trash. Now that you know I control billions, I am suddenly your beloved daughter. I find that deeply inefficient and morally bankrupt. David fell to his knees on the marble floor, landing right next to the plastic shards of the badge he had cut. Please, he sobbed, his expensive Armani suit wrinkling around his shaking frame. I'll give you 90% equity. I'll make you CEO. Just reverse the financial freeze. I already own 80%, I replied logically, looking down at him. And the remaining 20% is now mathematically worthless. My audit team will arrive at your headquarters tomorrow at exactly 8 a.m. I highly suggest you hire independent legal counsel. I turned my back on them. The silence in the grand ballroom was profound, broken only by my mother's loud weeping and David's frantic, hyperventilating gasps. I walked out through the heavy glass doors and stepped into the cool night air. My armored Audi A8L was waiting at the curb. Marcus opened the heavy rear door. Back to the penthouse, ma'am? He asked. Yes, Marcus, I said, stepping inside the quiet cabin. The evening's business is entirely concluded.